You're watching the Eyewitness Sports Jam.
Welcome back to the 13 Sports Jam. I'm Eric Yutzy, trying to soak up some knowledge from our good friend and colleague Mike Wells. Mike, how you doing tonight?
Good. How you doing, Eric?
He's heading out to Philadelphia tomorrow for the Pacers as they continue to try and put things together. Give me your impressions of this team through 8 games, Mike.
You know what? I think they've turned a lot of heads. Obviously, people are going to say, well, they got blown out by Miami. The Miami Heat are on a mission this season. But the one thing that the Pacers are trying to do, they're trying to build off of what happened last season, get into the playoffs and compete against the Chicago Bulls. And as we were talking off air, when you look at the Eastern Conference, Miami, Chicago, the top 2 teams in the East by far, probably the top 2 teams in the NBA. But after that, you might as well take a quarter out your pocket, throw it up in the air because I think it's wide open. People ask me before the season, where do you think the Pacers could be at? I say anywhere between 6, and I'll say 4, possibly 3, but I think between 4 and 6 in the Eastern Conference this season.
Part of that comes with winning games like they won last night. Games that are slow starts, games where they're sluggish out of the gates, games, Mike, they may not have won last year.
You know, the funny thing is, it was like 2 different teams. I mean, down by 6 at halftime, you end up and hold the Bobcats to 10 of 46 shooting in the second half. I mean, in the past, if they struggled offensively, the Pacers weren't going to win games. But now they're getting after it, having that blue-collar workman ethic out there, and I think it's really paying off. I mean, going tonight, the Celtics were winning there for the first time in 4 years. Then the Bobcats. Now I think tomorrow in Philadelphia is going to be a tough one. Philadelphia is first in the league in points allowed and first in the league in field goal defense. So something's going to have to give because the Pacers are number 3 in those categories too.
We're going to talk about that Boston game in a moment. Let's talk about a game you had mentioned a few moments ago in the Miami loss. That was a big loss. That was a loss that you don't want to revisit very often. But what was learned from that? What was carried from what happened in Miami, Mike?
I think the biggest thing is I think they went in with mind frame. You only had to deal with 2 of the big 3. Dwayne Wade was out of that game. And I think it was an eye-opener because a lot of people in the NBA were looking at the Pacers hadn't played anybody in their first 4 games. I think the big test was going to be Miami. They got embarrassed, quite honestly, 35 points. But the fact that they were able to bounce back, stay on the road, go into Boston, a place they hadn't won since before Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen moved out east, shows what type of mind frame this franchise has and what they want to do going forward.
And you were there. You were in Boston reading your tweets about, TD Garden and the atmosphere that was there. But that's a hostile environment.
Yes.
You went with the Boston team that has some aging legs. There's still some talent there. These guys have confidence, obviously, but what can be built on from a victory like that, especially coming off a loss like Miami?
I mean, the fact that you can go in and beat a team that a lot of people feel like is in the top 4 in the East, meaning Boston, on the road after losing by 35 points 2 nights earlier, that tells you that this franchise is really ready to go forward. I felt like outside of Ray Allen, Paul Pierce didn't do anything. Kevin Garnett, I always say that his bark is a lot bigger than his bite these days at 34 years old. There's a lot of talking, but doesn't back it up on the court. And the fact that the Pacers are legitimately 8, 9 players deep, you're going to wear teams out, especially teams that have 4 guys that are at least 33 years old in the starting lineup. I mean, Jermaine O'Neal, the guy's been playing on one leg for about 4 or 5 years right now. So it was definitely big, and it was a big confidence booster for the Pacers.
We joke about young legs versus old legs. To that, especially in a year like this,
you got to have young legs. And you got to have a lot of depth out there. And I think the Pacers have that. You look at their core players, basically Jeff Foster and David West are the only two rotation guys over the age of 30. You got young guys like Paul George, George Hill, Darren Collison, Tyler Hansworth, Roy Hibbert. I can spend the next 5 minutes talking about this team. But, yeah, when you can go 8 or 9 deep, playing a lot of games in a short period of time, especially when you look at their schedule, 15 out of the first 22 on the road, you got to be able to say if a guy doesn't have it going. Look, David West, he didn't play. When he checked out in the middle of the 3rd quarter, he didn't check back in last night because they didn't need him.
Right.
But when he left, I think they were up like 8 or 9 points, and they win by 22. So that tells you what type of depth they have.
On that topic, if you told me a couple of years ago that Danny Granger is shooting 30%, lowest in the league amongst guys who qualify, this team is not 6-2. This team is not where they need to be. What's going on with Danny, and is this a sign that the Pacers are okay if he's shooting like this and they're still playing that well?
That's the best thing, the fact that they're 6-2. But from an individual standpoint, I feel like Danny's pressing a lot right now. I mean, the last 4 years, he's been the man on this team. He's been the guy that's been able to take any shot. There was no bad shot for Danny Granger. Right. Now he's learned doesn't have to carry that load. But you see at times, when the shot clock's winding down, instead of making that extra pass, he wants to try to put it up and try to be the hero.
Is that ruining the flow?
It is. Luckily they're playing defense, and it's not as big of a glaring scene for them right now. But at some point, you got to fix that problem and get Danny to start moving the ball and realize that instead of wanting to take 15 to 20 shots a game, take 10 to 12, and you'll shoot a high percentage. It just takes time. He'll get out of this funk. He better get out of this funk, because if not, Paul George is taking the steps in the right direction, where at some point you can say Paul George could be the starting small forward on this team, and maybe you don't need Danny. But I think with the season being so young, he'll get out of it. You got to remember, you only had 2 weeks of training camp.
You know, we've seen depth from this unit. Obviously, Tyler Hansbrough continues to be impressive off the bench. George Hill really seems like he's a guy who's coming into his own. We saw toughness from George last night, and what happened with Gerald Henderson. George is obviously a guy who's controlled, but he made it very clear he did not want this team to be pushed around, and he's going to make sure it doesn't happen.
You know, I liked what I saw out of George last night. He could have easily just snapped. I mean, Frank Vogel wrapped him up. Let's be real now. I don't think Frank Vogel could hold you up if he tried to tie you up and stuff. I think you could have broke free. If George really wanted to break free and go after Gerald Henderson, he could have. But as he said after the game, he's more important on the court instead of in the locker room with his knees iced up trying to watch his teammates play. And I think he's found his shot, because early on, I mean, he kind of had that Danny Granger thing, trying to fill out his role and everything. But now, between him and Paul George, when those two guys shoot jump shots, I feel like they're going in every time when they put the ball up.
Try and be concise here, and I know that's tough for a guy who's got so much to say. What's the best thing Frank Vogel has done early? The best thing?
Energy. He's got his guys playing hard. That's all you can ask for. Play hard, and you're going to win. You're going to win a lot of games.
Let's take a look where the Pacers are headed this week. They are in Philadelphia tomorrow night. Wednesday, they're home against Atlanta. Friday, Toronto. Saturday, the Celtics. Man, it is going to get crazy here as the season continues, man.
It is. Tough night tomorrow. Atlanta, they beat Miami last week. Boston's going to want to come in and try to get revenge off of what happened last week. Toronto, they're rebuilding. I think 2-2, 3-1 will be a great week for the Pacers.
2-2, 3-1. Mike Wells has all the answers. I think I'm smarter simply by osmosis. Thanks, man. Safe travels to Philadelphia tomorrow. Super Bowl right around the corner means plenty of events going on in addition to the big game. He's going to be downtown having a great time February 5th. Hunter Smith wants to have breakfast with you before the Super Bowl. The former Colts punter has those details coming up next.